All set?
Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome to July. Welcome to the Sports Wrap. George Ringer. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since we spoke to you last. We had a little to-do last Monday. We thought we were going to be ready to rock and roll, and well, you know, it's just the way things go. Life gets in the way.
It does.
Well, we'll move on. The stuff didn't really change a whole bunch.
Well, no,
kept the notes from last week, and we'll move on.
No, you know, but I mean, when I take a look, what happens in 1 week from sports is like a lightning year, except that Turek Scuba. I watched him pitch a game.
Okay.
He struck out 7 of the first 9 batters that he faced.
Not too shabby.
And they were twins. And it's you know, and you just sit, and I mean, it wasn't. I mean, we have our best hitters up there. They weren't even close. And so I just thought, you know, he did win the Cy Young Award last year, and I don't see any reason for him not to do it again. But he was 8 out of the first 9. He was just incredible. I mean,
and what day was this? Because I haven't watched the Twins game in so long.
It was last week. You know.
I can't even think. Anyway, yeah, it's.
No, they're doing really well, and I mean, you know, Scuba is. Anytime that you put this man on the mound, you're 2 runs ahead. And you know, and right off the bat, he doesn't have to do anything because there's nobody going to get on base. The Twins got 1 hitter, 1 runner on base, and it was an infield fluke bumper. There was nobody put the bat on any of his baseballs, and so I just sat down and I thought.
It makes you think that he's throwing a little slobber ball, doesn't it?
Well, whatever he's doing, he was throwing some stuff, and he was good. What they call that in
Major Leagues? Not a snot ball, what a grease ball. I don't remember what Euchre said. Anyway.
No, whatever it was, you know, we'll get into the Twins a little bit later, but I wanted to bring him up, and then the other one last week was. The Lynx, they're now 15-2, I believe.
17-2.
Okay, 17-2
after yesterday's win.
And they beat Connecticut, and I watched this Connecticut game. They beat them 102-63, and they took the foot off in the fourth quarter.
And then the scary part was the next night, or the next day, I believe it was, they played Indiana. And they scored, what, 59 points?
59 points. That was the worst performance of the year. And you didn't want it to be against Indiana.
I wonder if Cheryl Reeve took the tape of that game, brought the ladies in, and lit it on fire.
No, I don't know.
And moved on.
Since then, they've won 5 straight games. Yeah, they're 17-2. They're 4.5 games in the lead, and that's still the best record in the WNBA. And they're looking at a lady named Emma Milseman.
You're going to try to say that name, huh?
Milseman. Anyway, Milseman's from Belgium. She's a 6'3" center, and
Nafisa says we should get her, right?
Well,
is that who said we should get her?
What Nafisa wants, Nafisa might give a shot at. I think that one of the real secrets to having this great women basketball player on there is her coach. Her coach lets her play her game. Her coach, I think, gives her say. And this is Cheryl Reeves, who's, in my estimation, the best coach in the league. And but I think she does it by great coaching of the people, not directing, coaching.
She's one of the best. There's no way around that.
There isn't any way around that.
I found it interesting the Lynx winning last night, and then Angel Reese went on X and said that the officials are favoring the Lynx. They're giving Lynx all the advantages.
Well, you know, and it's just like I remember the first time I ever heard this, and they were talking about umpires. I don't know, it might have been a Cincinnati coach, and Bob Gibson, and he says Bob Gibson gets all the breaks. Well, he's the best pitcher in baseball, and he can hit that corner better than anybody else. And if you don't like it, he'll give you a high and inside too. And I think that great pitchers and great athletes, I think LeBron James has gotten a couple of breaks and a couple a game. And so, you know, you see this, and I just think, yeah, you know,
they talk about Greg Maddux and whatever 20 seasons or whatever it was, he only went to a 3-ball count 215 times or some incredible number, and you're just like, well, I mean, that's just pitching in the zone, right?
And you're not going to tell me that hitter doesn't have that in the back of his mind.
Well,
He knows
I
how
don't
great
think the
these
umpire isn't going, well, if I don't give Greg Maddux the black and maybe an inch more,
Yeah.
he's going to get mad at me because he's been around forever.
That's the thing, yeah.
the
And
thing.
so it's, anyway, as long as we're talking about baseball, I
Yeah.
also made a little time for the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers series.
Okay?
The first one I couldn't quite believe because I think it was like 16-1 that they won. It was the biggest loss. And did I put that down there? Maybe not, but they just hammered them. That was the worst that the LA Dodgers have been beaten at home, I think, ever.
Wow.
And then they went
That's a
on.
long time. That's over 60 years.
Like Altuve, your favorite ball player, Jose, 2 home runs. He was just all over the place. He was just a huge player, considering he's 5'4". But anyway, Houston, they had a 3-game series. This is the first time they've taken LA in 3 games since 2008. So that's 17 years there. So it was just fun to watch, and I know we got a problem with Houston and all like that. But the Dodgers aren't the only ball club in town, and I just think that little trips like this guarantee that.
Well, I mean, the whole, well, we've been playing interleague baseball now for 25 years. I don't even know. I suppose I could type it in here
Yeah.
and see. But I like the fact that you get to play everybody.
Oh, I do too. I think it's great.
I mean, think of it this way: the fact that Shohei Ohtani comes to Minnesota at least every other year. approximately.
He's been coming in 4th week and 3rd week in April. We got to get him here in the July.
summertime.
On the other hand, this guy, he's hit 30 home runs, maybe more since I've counted, and he's pitching like 2 shutout innings where he's striking out 5. When you talk about the measurement of a baseball player or athlete per se, this guy is amazing. And if anybody wants to watch a good baseball player, thank goodness for TV.
Yeah,
you don't have to think.
like I
But
said, you get a chance to root against them or whatever. When 30 years ago, you didn't have that option.
No, you didn't.
The only time you got to play the National League was in the World Series. And, I'm glad that they have it in place.
well, Shona, he hits right in front of Mookie Betts, and I'm thinking, pitcher's got to have this in the back of his mind as well. On the inside,
Absolutely.
the Houston pitchers were taking care of business, and the Dodgers they cooled them off a little bit.
Okay. Byron Buxton is an all-star.
He is an all-star.
I'm a little disappointed that he's the only Twins all-star at this point.
I am too, and maybe they'll pick somebody else up there.
Yeah, there's always going to. I mean, I think
'Cause
Joe
it's-
Ryan is, somebody in the next week, excuse me, not next couple of weeks, the next week.
Yeah.
Some pitcher is going to say, well, I need the rest more than I need to pitch at the All-Star game. I think Joe Ryan is deserving. Tough luck loser yesterday.
Oh, boy.
Pitched well enough to gave up 5 hits over 6 innings. Has been very good. But having said that, Byron Buxton very, very deserving. Gets to go home to Georgia to play in Georgia for the All-Star game.
He'll pack him in for that one.
Everybody's making a big deal about that. And
He's
and they
he's
should.
he's had a wonderful year, and he deserved that. He is the best 8-man baseball player on the team. There's no doubt about it. He's consistently up there. He's dangerous in so many different ways.
Speed kills.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Harrison Bader.
Harrison Bader. Well, he's on fire.
He
Maybe
was
should
on
be an
fire.
all-star.
I don't know, but he a couple nights ago he got 2 home runs, including a walk-off, and then
Yesterday hit the game tying
tie her
run
up.
as a pinch hitter.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's on fire. How do you sit a guy like that?
I don't know.
Rocket?
And then on Saturday, I watched that game on Saturday, and I just kept on thinking, this is small ball. This is all this is. And then Brooks Lee.
Rockwell playing small ball. Can you believe it? What the heck?
Brooks Lee gets a bunt inside and drops it about 10 feet down the line.
I'd have bet a piece of my anatomy that we would never be bunting in that situation. Never. That is a shocker.
Bider says this is the first time he's ever bunted anybody home, and it's just
When I that was Saturday.
yeah.
I was out at the lake, and when I saw that notification come across my phone that we had won on a bunt single
Bunt single.
as a walk-off, I was like,
Yeah.
What? what? We bunted?
The announcers were laughing, and those of us that were watching the game, we were laughing too. And I was kind of in a hurry. I had to go up the lake, and I'm sitting around there, and I said, "I'm not leaving." That thing goes. And I mean, I got to say this about the Twins: they have been disappointing a few times, but for the most part, their games are pretty exciting, and they are fun to watch. They've got enough people on their team to
make it interesting.
To make it
Keep
interesting. Yeah.
But 13 and a half games. They went 3-3 over the week, and they dropped the game back.
Yeah.
13 and a half games behind Detroit. I've been promising you people that Detroit is going to wake up. It's after the 4th of July, and they are 13 and a half games ahead of the second place Twins. Boy, that's a tough road. Of course, Detroit's the only team above 500.
That's right.
In the AL Central. We were talking at the start of the year that the AL Central might be the best division in the American League, top to bottom, minus the Chicago White Sox. But all the other teams have kind of cooled off there, and they're not going to. The Twins aren't going to win the AL Central, but they got to work for a wild card.
Oh, they can't. But I mean, there's a lot of other second place teams that aren't so hot either. And so there's some people that they can still squeeze in, but they have to have that 8-game win streak, that 10-game win streak. If they ever see a 13-game win streak, they have to put together a real win streak in order for them to pull themselves out of the hole. On the other hand, with Harrison Bader and some of the rest of these kids coming up, Rice Lewis is even hitting the ball.
Yeah.
It's just like, but Rice Lewis, he's really a good defender, and he can carry that glove pretty well. And it's just like I like the feel of the infield right now. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Did you know that Rocco got his contract extended?
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, they said it kind of went unannounced almost. Like it was just like, well, it happened, and the Twins didn't make a big deal about it. So any of you that thought that Rocco was going to get fired, like myself, if things continue to go bad, that ain't happening.
That ain't going to happen.
Ain't going to happen.
No, it's not.
So
anyway, the Twins they got the day off today, and then they host the Cubs and then the Pirates for the next 6 games.
Oh my, the Cubby fans will be in town making life unfortunate for the fans in the stands.
They walk around.
The bars around Target.
They're looking for blues, so in Chicago you go to a blues bar. I don't know sure what they'll work out of Minneapolis, but there's enough.
If they got any extra tickets, they might be going to see Kingfish.
Yeah, the King, Kingfish.
Yeah. So,
okay,
are we done with baseball?
Yeah, we can leave baseball for a while, but it's been what's been on.
It's about and that and soccer.
That and soccer and Wimbledon.
In Wimbledon, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Wimbledon as long as you brought it up. Quarterfinals are set.
They are.
Men's and women's.
Sinner got a gift here.
Sinner got a gift.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest news. It looked like Djokovic was maybe going to falter this morning. Lost the first set 6-1. Down in the fourth set, 4-1. And then came back and won the fourth set 6-4 and won. And at 38 years of age, advances to the quarterfinals for the 16th time at Wimbledon.
16 times. That's such incredible.
That's insane.
And I noticed in the later part of his game, he gets stronger.
He
You know,
does
he
that.
does-
That's why.
yeah,
That's
and-
why he's so good.
You know, and
conditioning.
that's he's lean and mean and can hit that ball really hard.
Sinner was down 2 sets, had his own injury problem himself.
He did.
Looked like a bad hand, wrist, forearm, elbow. Something wasn't good. So Dimitrov, excuse me, looked like he was cruising, and he was serving, and one serve looked like it
went
maybe
up,
hurt,
but it
and then he
looked
went
like
for
a
another
pectoral
one
muscle.
and
That was not
popped the muscle. The tears were there.
He had to lift his arm up to shake hands with the official, and that's the last thing I saw, and I turned it off. But he and Sinner are really good friends, and they were, you know, really. I mean, he was just over there. Sinner was over watching him the whole time. He wanted that game to continue, and he did not want to see his friend hurt. And you know, it's a vicious sport.
I listened to the post-game interview on the radio while I was on my way out here, and he basically cut the interview short. He answered one question, he answered it quite in length, and then he walked away because he didn't want to talk about it.
By the way, Sinner is the first seed.
He is the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Shelton, he gets Ben Shelton from the USA on Wednesday.
Oh, Big Ben.
So Big Ben, we'll see if he can come through there. I was hoping he was going to get Dimitrov. I will say it would have been nice. A 34-year-old towards the end of a tournament, Ben Shelton. But you got to beat number 1 probably at some point.
So how old's Ben? He's young, and he's like
Ben's
21,
22 years
22?
old, 23 years old, something like that. Well,
He
might
is
be
a good
20 because he was the NCAA champion a few years ago.
He is really a good-looking athlete, and it's just you know, he'll be fine.
Taylor Fritz, American on the men's side, he gets Kachkov tomorrow. Alcaraz, he's just going to continue to cruise. He looks like he's going to falter, and then he just like Djokovic.
So what do you
finds a
see
way.
him and Djokovic in the finals?
I'm going to go crazy on you.
Yeah.
Ben Shelton's going to come through his half. He's going to beat Sinner, who's going to be down, and then Djokovic is going to run out of gas in the semis against Shelton. Ben Shelton plays in the finals against.
Shelton does not run out of gas.
No, and he can serve like a beast.
Oh, that thing comes around 115, 100.
And he gets Carlos Alcaraz in the final and loses in the final. But
Okay.
That's my the women's side. 1 American left over. The American women, for as well as they did at the French Open, that's how poorly they did at Wimbledon. Coco Gauff lost in the first round. Oh gosh.
10 of the top 20 lost in the first round. Were eliminated right off the bat.
Yeah.
And Coco, I watched the match, and she was playing well the first 2 sets, and then it just fell apart. And it.
Yeah. You know, they say playing on grass is obviously tough. Was she partying too much?
But she says she made up. She says, "I'm just physically exhausted,"
and that can definitely happen.
And that can definitely happen. That tour.
I'm sure the requests for interviews and everything else time also became a whatever.
Well, these are professional athletes. They got to train, and they got to work out, and they got to see their doctor.
Was she working out too hard? You know, you also got to have time.
You do.
So Sabalenka, the number 1 seed, she plays tomorrow morning in the quarters. I don't see anybody beating her. Anna Anisimova, who sounds like a Russian name, but she's actually the only American left on the women's side. Andreeva versus Bencic, and then Swiatek, who has not performed well on grass the last 3-4 years as the number one player in the world. Now kind of maybe has the pressure off of her, and she seems to be playing very, very well. She gets Samsonova, and a lot of Russian-sounding.
Well, there are, and there are a lot of Slavs, and it's the Ukrainians, and it's just like that whole thing, and you wouldn't think like, geez, where did all these people get tennis courts? But they're very good athletes.
And the Italian men have 3 players in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, ought to be a great weekend. Probably won't get to watch a whole bunch this weekend. Maybe we will, but always good to have breakfast at Wimbledon to get up and watch a little tennis on the grass. What do you want to go to next?
Let's just talk just a little bit about LeBron James.
I'm curious because I haven't heard anything good or bad about LeBron.
Well, he signed himself another contract with the Lakers, and
Okay.
Lakers has been sold, and he's
He's now part owner.
he's now part owner because he has all the money,
Yeah, I saw he signed for like 52 million or some all darn thing like that.
and
or
he's
whatever.
what, 41?
Going to be 41. I
Going to be
believe.
41.
Yeah.
Just an amazing athlete, and it's just like you like to speak out for elders when you talk.
Well, and
about
I like that
LeBron,
he
and
loses
it's,
in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Sorry, LeBron fans. I apologize. That was low blow. That was rude. Yeah.
Let's talk about as long as it's so meaningful, the NBA draft.
Here's the words I wrote down. Nothing fancy about the NBA or NHL or the PWHL drafts that all occurred in the last couple of weeks. Nothing flashy.
Well, they got a couple more trees.
And both of them are projects. So neither one of those players is going to have any effect in 25-26.
Okay,
But keep on. Yeah.
one's from France to keep Mr. Gobert happy, and the other one,
Or to replace
Zikarsky.
him?
No, they just somebody to talk to.
Well, he's not even going to be on the team. That's what I'm saying. He's going to play in Europe for another 2 years, and when Rudy retires, then they'll bring him over.
Well, we got Rocco Zikarsky. He's Australian, and he's 7'1", a project.
A project.
Another project.
Another project.
Yeah, no.
Luka's gone. Garza's gone.
Oh, that's bad. They should not have done that.
He went off to the Celtics for some cash, and good luck to I love.
No, I like Luka Garza. I liked him when he was in college, except when he played against the Gophers.
Yeah.
No,
And we lost Nah.
no.
Yeah, he signed with Atlanta with the Hawks. Got 62 million.
Reed?
No, not Nasri.
No,
Nah. Nikhil Alexander Walker.
Yes. Yeah, Reed's still with us,
Nasri signed for a
And-
big bag of money.
and
As did
Randall too.
As Julius Randle also signed for a big bag of money.
Were you surprised at that?
I was a little surprised
Maintain
at
the two.
that. I think that tells us that they want to give it another go. You probably are saying, well, he doesn't seem to like that. No, I don't. I really don't like it. Julius Randle he disappeared in the playoffs.
Well, he did towards the end, but I mean, he played real well against the Lakers.
He did.
And
But that was the Lakers.
that's true, and they
and
were big, and he could knock them over because he's big, and he could knock them over.
Everybody else got a
Oklahoma
little
City,
quicker.
they're fast.
Fast.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know if anybody was really available to the Wolves, so they decided that they were going to go this way. Nas kind of disappeared in the playoffs as well, so I hope. Man, who knows?
Well,
there's still
you-
opportunities for trades
Do,
coming up.
do they have? Are they? I mean, are they going to go with a 10-man bench? I don't know that they'll do that.
No, but I think, obviously there's guys who have left. They, like you said,
And there's some kids there too that.
And I think they're dependent upon the kid from Illinois right now.
Yes.
I can't think of his name.
I can't either, but
Terrence. Wow.
yeah.
Too many names. Anyway, I think they're expecting him to step up, and that's why.
And actually, he had a good playoff. But he was a real good basketball player at Illinois too.
So, but what did you come out of anything else out of the NBA draft that?
No, it was almost like they ran this show for 2 nights, and I couldn't see that. I hopped on the first night just to see what everybody was doing, and there was absolutely no surprises. And
Yeah,
it's just
a lot of names from Europe
and Cooper Flag was going to go the first anyway. We all kind of knew that.
Yeah, that was the least. Yeah, that was. Everybody figured that was going to happen.
Yeah.
How about the NHL draft? That was on the next 2 nights or the next 2 days.
Well,
after the
and I didn't see the Wild making a whole lot of changes there.
Yeah, the Wild didn't have a first round pick.
Yeah.
They made a whole bunch of drafts after that, and really didn't make a splash in free agency either, just like the Timberwolves. They brought in Victor Tarasenko from, well, I think of him as a St. Louis Blue forever. And he did some bad things to us, and so let's hope that he does some of those bad things for us now to the other teams.
Well, it's just like, and I know, but I mean, he did say this. My good old friend Patrick Russi, he says, we get all these people from Europe, can't even pronounce their names. We shouldn't have them, except for Kaprizov.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, but I love to see this kind of national diversity, because, I mean, in many instances, we started the sports in those countries and sponsored them in the 40s and the 50s when there wasn't much else going on, and so that was the reason. I mean, they didn't know what a basketball was in 1945 in Africa. Well, guess what?
They do now.
They do now. And they're, I watch some of the minor league and actually a major professional league and all the organizations.
You've been watching the summer league, NBA, haven't you? You've been watching the summer league.
Just a little. Just
a little.
Just a little.
I flipped through the channels and saw it on, and the first thing I thought was, well, George is probably watching this game right now.
No, you got to see how these. I mean, the first time I did that a couple of years ago. And we were watching Chet Holmgren, and he sprained his ankle and was off for the season, which I thought I wouldn't have done that with this kid, and as it turned out, I still wouldn't have. So
I agree.
Yeah.
It made it some people change their tunes about things.
Yes.
Interesting about the NHL free agency. We've been waiting 4 years to get rid of the Suter and Parise contracts. And then they go increase the salary cap, and all these players that were free agents stayed signed with their old teams again.
Well,
because all these teams had a whole bunch of money.
And one person described it as the Wild has fat coffers for the first time in 100 years, and they have no place to spend it.
They got no place to spend it.
And they got no place to spend it, which was kind of a rare type situation.
Got Nico Sturm back again. Somebody who's on the bottom six of the forwards, but they talked about the fact about bringing him in so that he could take faceoffs. Mm-hmm. They need him to win more faceoffs. So, see, we're getting a little precipitation out there, George. Just what we need.
Yeah, a little rain.
Little rain, yeah. Hopefully it's just a little.
I'm kind of sugar, I'll dissolve.
You rained on my parade by telling me Broncos contract got renewed.
Sorry, we try to talk about the good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
And not the ugly, though, anyway.
No. Anyway, as long as we're talking about hockey here, Excel Arena's got a new name.
I was shocked that it was Grand Casino and not Treasure Island.
Well,
that's who I figured. That's who I was putting my money on.
One of the things that I come to find out is the managers that are doing Grand Casinos are the same managers that are doing the XL Center, and so they were able to negotiate with themselves. But this is I know people that know people like the chairman of Mille Lacs, and I think that this really is good for their brand.
Well,
and it's just
like I said, that's why I figured it was going to be Treasure Island. That's just who I thought. But I will say this: it's a 14-year contract.
Yes.
Now what the heck? Not 15, not 10. It's 14. What happens in 2039? That's significant. I don't know what that is.
They're going to want a new arena.
Well, that's possible because it'll be 40 years old by then.
Oh, I realize that, yeah.
So they'll probably be looking for.
So no more Civic Center, like all confusing. So it's
no Civic Center,
and it's not Excel.
The Grand Casino Arena, not Center even, not even the
arena.
Center Arena.
Yeah.
It's just the arena. I don't know.
Do you think they'll have a casino nearby?
No, there's no room. I was just there the other day. There's no room to put a casino unless they build it up on top.
Well, they could put it where they put the Hall of Fame. Okay, that was sarcastic. That was sarcastic.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that there might be some slot machines around or something.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Something for the kids to play with. I do have to bring this up, and that's Minnesota Gophers these days. They're getting a lot of press. They're getting a lot of money. They're probably going to be bankrupt in 4 or 5 years. But they have Roman Voss, and he's the Jackson County Central superstar. Very much
Our
in
good
demand.
friend Randy Anderson was all over that the morning that it happened. He texted me even.
Did he? I'm sure he
So
did.
I didn't miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah?
that's all right. But you know what I like about he is not only an outstanding football player. We watched him play in the tournament last year, and it's just as a running back he'd kill you. As a linebacker he could kill you, and any other defensive play. I mean, he could have even been not deep safety, but a center safety on the football team, and he's big. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, and he's really, really fast. So
That's a good combination.
they're going to turn him into a tight end, I heard, which is a little. We don't have great big running backs anymore. So anyway, I think that he is going to be fun to watch. How much NIL money he's getting, I don't know, but I'm sure it's considerable. They beat out Alabama. And
that's hard to believe.
That's hard to believe.
I'm glad you wanted to stay home. I like it.
Well, I
like it.
think, and that's what he wanted too. His whole family and parents. And it's like Perich. These are small town kids. These are not great big urban kids, and
Preseason All-American for Clay Parrish.
Yeah, preseason All-American.
I know he's good, but that's a different level.
Was he all Big Ten last year?
Freshman All Big Ten.
Freshman All Big Ten.
Yeah. So I don't know. He's definitely turned some heads, and hey, all I hope is he doesn't have the sophomore slump, baby.
No, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that he's going to be playing solely as a safety man. I think they're going to turn him
Get him
into
some
a
touches.
receiver, and they're going to get him that football. He's had too many fine runs, and and they could split him, they could slot him, they could put him in the backfield, they can do all kinds of stuff, but he's going to go on that offense.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyway, and
And
St. Thomas is eligible for tournament play next year instead of the full time. No, well, maybe a little. That's
unbelievable.
unbelievable. But what they've done in 5 years is pretty incredible.
No, and I kid about the money thing. They've shown that they're ready. That's the thing.
That's it.
They've shown that they're ready to do this. It's not like, well, we want to be in, but we're going to get our butts kicked. No, they're ready to do what they need to do. So I agree with the decision 100%. It was the right decision.
And it could have
the NCAA doesn't get it right very often, but in this case they did.
They did. No, I agree. So yeah, you take a look at this, and I don't, way to go, Tommies, and I don't say that lightly.
Yeah, another Minnesota team to cheer for in the big stuff.
Yes,
so.
that is true.
So, I think the only thing we haven't talked about, George, is soccer.
Well, let's talk about soccer. Mexico and the United States played yesterday. Didn't work all so good for the Yankees.
The United States played quite well for the first 6 minutes, and then Mexico just absolutely made their. Honestly, I don't think I'm lying. I watched from about the 5-minute mark, right after they scored the goal, till about 40 minutes. And in that 35 minutes of soccer, I want to say that the United States had the ball in control in Mexico's half of the field 3 minutes. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Mexico was all over them it was crazy.
It's hard to play offense in that sport if you're playing defense. You just can't do it.
I don't know what if we got to 1-0 and we decided we were going to go into the shell, or if Mexico turned it up a little bit, which probably is more the rationale. But that first goal that Mexico scored, where that guy kind of snuck in between two guys, and he snuck that baby off with the left foot, and it was in the back of the net, and I'm like, ooh. Wow, that's a nice goal. And then the second one, I was sure I bet another appendage. that he was offside before that ball hit that guy in the head. But by God, they showed it. He was onside.
Well, you know, a lot of people, especially in this country, really don't get into football like that. But the fact of it is, these athletes are incredible.
I know Mike Bolstead when there's others out there. If you were watching that match last night, whether you were cheering for Mexico or the United States, that was some serious soccer. It was an enjoyable match to watch.
And it's going to get more serious in the next year.
World Cup is less than a year away.
Yeah.
Eli's anxious. You know, we're in the lottery to get tickets to go watch the World Cup.
Okay, where at?
Well, we're hoping Kansas City.
Okay.
But I don't know. We gotta wait to see if we get drawn.
They said something about there was a Mexican sportscaster, and he says, play these games in Mexico. Canada and the United States don't appreciate what they're going to have here, but that isn't the way they see it at the LA Coliseum, I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Well, not only is it raining a little bit now, George, it's coming down quite nicely out there. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, U.S. loses in the Gold Cup final. The Loons sitting there in third place. Got a win at Dallas 2-1 on Friday. Beat Houston before that. Tied the New York Red Bulls before that. They play Chicago in the U.S. Open Cup, which is kind of a side tournament with the second league. Yeah, let's hope that the Loons can take care of business and keep doing what they're doing, because they're playing really well.
Yeah, that's good. They are.
What else you got?
I'm going to watch a show tonight at 7 o'clock. It's called Lit by Lightning, and it is the biography of Jim Thorpe. Arguably the greatest athlete
Of all time.
of all time. And there, I think you're going to see some shots that you don't see too often.
What channel is this
That's
on?
on the History Channel, but it is 2 hours long. And so I can't wait to see this one. This is I think way too late. I mean, we shouldn't be. This should have been done a long time ago. And you know, when we were kids, I mean, we were still around when he was alive. We knew that he was the greatest athlete, and we knew that them taking away his medals was a lack of bigotry and ignorance. But we knew that at a very young age, and so I'm glad that they're doing this. I would have loved to have seen him play football. I understand that he was an incredible football player, and so it would have been fun to watch him. But anyway, there he is from Carlisle Barracks, and so I'll watch that show tonight. Also, and as long as I'm looking at my notes here, Fisha Collier has hit 45 consecutive free throws.
I heard something about that yesterday as I was flipping through whatever, or maybe when I was listening to the radio this morning or something. That's a pretty incredible number.
I think it is, and because I practiced free throws an awful lot of times in my youth.
Never made it to 45?
No.
Even in the games you didn't make it? Thinking about that, she's making them in games when the pressure's on, though. That's a big deal.
No, I love that woman, and I want her to have a very good rest of the season, because we have some things to prove
I agree.
against that Liberty bunch.
Anything else?
I think, let me see.
Little sad news from the baseball world yesterday with Bobby Jenks, just 44.
Young.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Too bad there for the Chicago White Sox. I mean, that was, when you think of Bobby Jenks, that's who you're going to think of as a pitching for the White Sox back in the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, and boy, he could throw stuff too.
He could throw some stuff.
Yeah, he could.
Had it going on, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Well, anyway, that kind of works it up for me.
Well, let's hope that George and I make it back safely from our rendezvous in the with Kingfish.
We're going to the city.
We're going to the city.
For the city.
And we're gonna listen to some. I suppose we gotta call it blues, but man, when he starts playing that guitar, it sure feels a little rock and rollish.
You know what I'm most excited about? Those tickets you scored for us. I think they're really good.
I think they're really good. Hopefully we have a good time, and we'll see everybody next week. Thanks.
Tell you about it.